My name's Eli. I'm 27 and I've always been the quiet one in the family, not in a shy, shrinking Violet kind of way, but the type who learned early that speaking up often got met with an eye roll, a dismissive laugh, or a don't be so sensitive from my mom. It wasn't always that way, or maybe it was and I just didn't recognize it as a kid, but I do. Now it was especially clear on my birthday this year when everything that had been simmering beneath the surface for years finally boiled over. Let me back up. My younger brother Caleb turned 25 in March. Our parents threw him what can only be described as a luxury weekend getaway. They rented a lake house 3 hours out of town. A modern glass cabin with a wraparound deck, hot tub, fire pit, private dock, the whole deal. They flew in 2 of his friends from out of state and even hired a private chef for the weekend. The photos were all over Facebook. My mom captioned them, "So proud of our baby boy," celebrating Caleb in style he deserves the world. There were group shots of them toasting champagne, fishing, playing poker, laughing around a campfire. One picture was just Caleb with the caption, "A king deserves a castle." I didn't like the photos. I didn't comment. I didn't say anything really, but that was the first time I felt it in my chest, not like jealousy, but this slow, creeping realization they wouldn't do this for me, not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't think I was worth it still. I brushed it off. Caleb's always been the golden child. He's loud, charming, effortlessly social. I was the straight-A student growing up, the one who didn't cause trouble, the one who stayed up late studying instead of sneaking out, and somehow that made me invisible. But I figured maybe for my birthday, they'd still do something. My birthday was 2 weeks ago, April 5th. Cleared the day just in case, didn't plan. Anything with friends, didn't book. Anything myself I didn't want to step on. Any surprise plans, around 1 o'clock p.m. I got a text from my mom, "Stop by the house when you're free today." That was it. No exclamation point. No happy birthday. Nothing. I sighed, but I told myself maybe she was just playing it cool. Maybe they were planning something small but heartfelt. I got there around 3:00 p.m. Caleb was on the couch scrolling on his phone. Dad was out back mowing the lawn. Mom was in the kitchen humming when she saw me. She smiled like I just dropped in on a Tuesday. "Oh, hey, Eli," she said. "You made it?" I stood in the entryway for a beat. "Yeah, you said to stop by." She nodded, wiped her hands on a dish towel, then reached into the fridge. "I picked up a cupcake for you," she said, placing it on the counter. It was one of those generic grocery store ones, chocolate base, white icing. No, candle. She handed me a card. Plain white envelope, already half-opened. Inside was a folded piece of cardstock that said "maybe next year" in metallic lettering. That was it. No personal message, no joke, just that Caleb didn't even look up. I gave a small laugh, more out of disbelief than humor. "That's it." My mom raised her eyebrows. "Excuse me, this is it a store-bought cupcake and a card that literally says maybe next year?" She leaned back against the counter, arms crossed. "Don't be so sensitive, Eli. You're an adult. We figured you didn't need all the hoopla." But Caleb got a whole weekend. Retreat, a chef, a condon, a crown that said "Birthday King." Well, Caleb's been going through a hard time, she snapped, and he's more celebratory. "You're so private. We didn't think you'd want a big fuss." I just stood there, the card limp in my hand, the cupcake starting to sweat under the fluorescent lights. My face was hot, but my voice stayed calm. "It's not about a big fuss. It's about the difference." She rolled her eyes honestly. "Eli, this is exactly why we didn't plan anything. You always make everything about you that did something to me. Something deep. I'd spent most of my life excusing this exact kind of treatment, telling myself they meant well, that I was just imagining things. But in that moment, I realized it wasn't me. It never was. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out my phone, snapped a photo of the lone cupcake sitting next to the cart. I looked at my mom and said, "Thanks." Then I turned around and left. I got in my car, drove straight to my apartment, and booked a flight to Lisbon. For the next morning, I've been saving up for a vacation for 2 years, waiting for the right moment. Well, this was it. That night as I was packing, I got a text from my dad. No greeting. Just, "Where did you go?" I didn't reply. Instead, I posted a photo on my Instagram, me at the airport lounge. Boarding pass in hand, caption, "Birthday. Retreat, no chef required within an hour." Caleb liked it. So did my cousin Danielle. Then I saw mom had viewed my story. 10 minutes later, her name lit up my screen. I let it ring, then I silenced it. I sat back, sipped my drink, and waited for the next ping. It didn't take long. Another call, then a text. "Eli, this isn't funny. Call me." But I wasn't trying to be funny. I was done being the afterthought. I was finally putting myself first. And Lisbon was just the beginning. I landed in Lisbon early the next morning, just as the sun was spilling gold over the terracotta rooftops. The air was cool, crisp, and smelled faintly of ocean and pastry. I took a deep breath the moment I stepped out of the airport, and for the first time in a long time, I felt light. Not in a vacation kind of way, more like a weight had been quietly lifted off my back. One I didn't even know I'd been carrying for most of my life. My hotel was a small place tucked between two faded pink buildings in the Alama district. It had crooked walls and a little balcony overlooking the city. The bed creaked when I sat on it. The floors were old but clean, and it felt like mine. Like no one here expected anything from me or decided who I was before I even spoke. I didn't respond to my parents' texts, not right away, not after the fourth call. Either it was only when I posted a photo of a pastel di nata on my story captioned Breakfast of Kings that the tone of the messages changed. At first, it was confusion. You're in Portugal. Is this a work trip? You didn't tell anyone you were leaving. Then came the guilt. We just wanted a low-key day. Caleb didn't even ask for all that stuff. We just thought he needed it. It was supposed to be funny, the card. You're taking it too seriously. But the last one, from my mom, stuck with me. It read, you always act like we treat you so horribly, but you never say what you actually want. Maybe if you spoke up more, things would be different. That's when I realized she didn't get it. She never had this. Wasn't about me wanting balloons in a party. This wasn't about jealousy. This was about years of being overlooked, minimized, and told that I was too quiet or too sensitive anytime I pointed it out. It was about them bending over backwards for Caleb while I became background noise they only acknowledged when it was convenient or when I stopped. Playing along on the second night, I sat in a tiny father bar sipping my drink while a woman sang with tears in her voice. I stared at my phone. Her voice, haunting and soft behind me, and I finally texted my dad back. I went somewhere I mattered. I didn't hear back right away. But the next day I got a group message. It was from Caleb. It said, dude, what is going on? Mom's freaking out. She thinks you're like disappearing or something. She's calling every cousin, asking where you are and why are you being so dramatic. It was just a cupcake. Grow up. I didn't answer that one either. Instead, I scrolled through Airbnb and extended my stay 2 more weeks. Started making lists of things I wanted to see. Crazy, maybe even hop over to Spain. Hadn't even told my job I'd be gone this long. But after years of never using my vacation days they owed me, and I owed this to myself, by the 5th day, the narrative back home had shifted. My aunt messaged me out of the blue. Heard you're in Europe. Good for you. You deserve some spoiling. Let me know if you want the family to back off. Then came another message from my older cousin Greg, who I hadn't seen in years. Bro, I remember your 18th birthday. You got a card and a handshake. Caleb got a car at 18, just saying you're not crazy. I stared at that. One, for a while, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I had normalized being treated like an afterthought for so long that the moment I pushed back, everyone acted like I'd lost my mind. But here's the thing about space. It gives you perspective. And what I started to realize as I explored cobbled alleyways and watched sunsets over the Taze River was that maybe I'd never been the problem they just didn't like. When I stopped playing my role by the 7th day, things at home reached a new level of frantic. My mom had posted a cryptic status on Facebook: when your children vanish on you without a word, you start to wonder if the world is upside down. It had over 60 comments. A few relatives jumped in with hope, everything's okay, or messaged me. One even tagged me. I didn't respond. Instead, I posted a photo me at a cafe in BM sunglasses on smiling caption, sometimes the best birthday gift is peace, not. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Mom again. I ignored it. Then a message came through, this time not from my parents, not from Caleb. It was from my dad's work email. Eli, please call me. This is getting out of hand. I sat back. Why would he message me from work then? Almost immediately after came another message from my boss. Hey, your mom called the office looking for you, said it was urgent. Everything all right? My hands went cold. They weren't just panicking. They were escalating, involving people who had no business being part of this. And suddenly I knew this wasn't just about my birthday anymore. This was about control, about the way they'd always kept tabs on me, defined me, boxed me in, and how now the moment I slipped outside their lines, they were trying to pull me back like a stray dog. I took a deep breath, heart pounding, and typed out one final message. You didn't worry when I was at your house holding a cupcake. Alone, don't start worrying. Now I'm fine. I'm just not coming back the same, and I meant it, because the old version of me, the one who tolerated the silence, the minimization, the guilt trips masked as jokes. He wasn't on this trip. He stayed back home next to that sad cupcake on the kitchen counter. But the version of me who was sipping espresso in the Lisbon sun, he was just getting started. And the next thing I did made it very, very clear that I wasn't asking for their permission anymore. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls: 2 from my dad, 3 from my mom, 1 from Caleb. The rest all unrecognizable numbers, probably my mom, calling from different phones or worse, relatives she'd roped into the drama. But I didn't care. I was done playing the obedient son who always kept the peace, the one who said it's fine when it clearly I wasn't coming back to. The same script where I showed up got overlooked and somehow still ended up being the one who had to apologize after. Brushing my teeth, I walked down to a small bakery around the corner from my hotel. The woman behind the counter greeted me like she did every morning, warm, cheerful, with a genuine smile. Ordered 2 pastries and a coffee and took a seat outside. The sky was soft, blustery with clouds in the street. Below was waking up locals sweeping, their stoops kids walking to school. Man selling books from a wooden cart. Watched them with a strange sort of envy. These strangers didn't know my name, my history, or what I was running from, but they treated me better than my own. Family did, and that realization hit harder than I expected that afternoon. I did something I'd never done before. I turned off my phone, completely off, not on silent, not on do not disturb. I shut it down and left it in the hotel room. Then I walked for hours through winding alleys and open plazas, past old churches and vibrant murals. I got lost somewhere near Barro Alto and stumbled into a tiny gallery where a man was painting scenes from his dreams. He said I had sad eyes but strong shoulders. I laughed and told him that was probably the most accurate thing anyone had said to me all year. I didn't think about my mom or my dad or the cupcake or Caleb and his lake house weekend. Instead, I thought about myself, who I was when I wasn't constantly shrinking to fit the space. They allowed me that night. I bought a journal. First page, I wrote, "You are not selfish for choosing yourself." Second page, they only call it overreacting when they don't like the reaction. Third page, I listed every time I had been pushed to the side. My 18th birthday, they forgot it. Until dinner then gave me a $20 gas card. While Caleb got a party with friends and a cake shaped like a football college. Graduation, they arrived late and left early for Caleb's soccer game even. Though I gave the valedictorian speech. Christmas, 2 years ago, I bought thoughtful gifts for everyone. Caleb forgot mine entirely. Mom said he's just busy, don't guilt trip him. The list went on. It wasn't about the gifts, it was the pattern, the message. You're not the priority. You're not even close. The next day, I turned my phone back on. It exploded instantly, a barrage of messages, voicemails, missed calls, and surprisingly, screenshots. Someone had apparently seen my Instagram post and sent it to the extended family group chat. Now uncles and aunts were weighing in somewhere. Sympathetic, Eli, I had no idea that post broke my heart. You always were so quiet. Maybe too quiet. I wish I'd said something. Others, not so much running off and airing dirty laundry on social media. Not the adult thing to do. So dramatic. Everyone gets a cupcake. Birthday once in a while. Then came the one that pushed everything over the edge. My mom had texted a photo of my empty childhood bedroom. The furniture was rearranged. The bed was gone. My books boxed up my desk, replaced with a treadmill. She captioned, "It didn't think you were coming back. Figured we'd use the space. No. Love you. No, come home when you're ready. No apology." Just that like I was an inconvenience they were happy to be rid of. I sat there staring at the screen, jaw clenched, heart thudding, and in that moment something inside me flipped. Not sadness, not anger, but something colder, clearer resolve. I took a deep breath and responded with one message: "You don't have to make space for me. I've already found mine." And then I did the thing they never expected me to do. I logged into my bank account I've been quietly saving for years while Caleb bounced from job to job, leaning on my parents every time rent was due. I built something real. Investments, a growing side business, 6-figure safety net, and now I was going to use it not just for plain tickets and pastries, but for something bigger. A few calls, some paperwork, a leap of faith. By the end of the week, I signed the lease on a small apartment right in the heart of Lisbon. Brick walls, open windows, a writing nook overlooking the street. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. And then I did one more thing. I drafted an email, a simple, polite message, not angry, not dramatic. Subject: resignation. Notice I explained I was pursuing new opportunities abroad and thanked them for everything. I didn't mention my mom or her calls to the office or how humiliating that was, but I think my boss understood. Her reply came 10 minutes later: "We'll miss you, Eli, but good for you. Go live your life." And that was it. The ties were cut. No more calendar reminders for family birthdays I'd be forgotten, and no more showing up out of obligation. No more explanations for why I didn't make more of an effort. I had made all the effort for years, quietly, patiently, kindly, and I was done. But just when I thought the story had reached its quiet, peaceful ending, just when I began to believe they'd finally let it go, something happened. Something that pulled me right back, and something that made all the calls, the guilt, the silence look like child's play in comparison. And when I found out what they'd done next, I realized they weren't just trying to pull me home, they were trying to erase me. I found out on a random Thursday morning. I just finished my walk along the waterfront, coffee in hand, sun on my back. Life was quieter now. More still. I'd adjusted to the rhythm of Lisbon like it was always mine. No more checking my phone every few minutes. No more jumping at the sound of a buzz or wondering what kind of guilt trip would come next. I'd learned to live in the pause between breaths, to sit in silence without needing to fill it. But that morning an email hit my inbox from an old college friend, Jason. We hadn't spoken in almost a year, but I remembered him being friendly with Caleb once upon a time. The subject line was short, saw this thought. You should know the email only had one sentence. Your brother posted this. Attached was a screenshot of a Facebook post from Caleb. The caption read, "Family isn't about who runs off when things get hard. It's about who stays. I'm proud to be here helping mom and dad rebuild after Eli's betrayal." Under it was a photo, my old room painted over in a sterile shade of beige, the bookshelves. Cleared my college diploma, which had hung on the far wall for years, was gone. In its place was a framed photo of Caleb shaking hands with some local business owner. The caption below that image read, "New beginnings." The comments were, "Worse, Aunt Marissa, so proud of you for stepping up. Eli always was different. My cousin's wife, Shamie, couldn't just talk to the family vanishing like that. Immature." And then the kicker from my own mother, sometimes the prodigal son doesn't return, but the son who stays builds the future. My hands went numb. Read that sentence 5, 6, 7 times. They weren't just erasing me from the room. They were rewriting the story. Suddenly I wasn't the quiet, steady one who kept the peace. I was the son who ran, the one who left them behind, the one who didn't care. Caleb wasn't the golden boy anymore. He was the savior, the martyr, the one who stayed to help mom and dad in their hard time, a hard time they created for themselves. But here's what hit me. Hardest, they knew I wouldn't defend myself publicly. They were banking on it. They knew I hated drama, confrontation, spectacle. They counted on me watching silently from across the ocean as they rewrote the truth. That's when I made a decision. No more silence, no more disappearing. To keep the peace, I opened my laptop and began to type. I didn't write a scathing, venomous post. That's not who I am. But I did write the truth, calmly, carefully, like someone laying down receipts. After years of being doubted, I posted it with no photo, just words. For those of you who have been told a story about me, here's mine. I didn't run off. I didn't abandon anyone. I simply stopped trying to earn the love and respect that should have been freely given by the people who raised me on my brother's birthday. Our parents rented a lake house, hired a private chef, and celebrated him like royalty on mine. I received a single store-bought cupcake and a card that read, "Maybe next year." When I expressed hurt, I was told I was being too sensitive. I took a photo of the gift, quietly left, and booked a flight to Lisbon. That decision was not a tantrum. It was a boundary. For years, I played the role they needed: quiet, helpful, low maintenance. I watched as my milestones were skipped, my accomplishments downplayed, and my feelings dismissed, and still I stayed loyal. I gave the benefit of the doubt. I showed up until I realized showing up for people who never show up for you is not noble. It's self-abandonment. I've received dozens of messages since I left, some kind, others cruel, to those who say I should have just spoken up. I did many times. It just didn't matter until I stopped playing along. I don't need pity. I don't need applause. I just want the truth to live somewhere untouched by guilt trips and half-truths. I didn't run. I chose peace, and sometimes choosing peace means walking away from people who refuse to see you clearly. I clicked post, and then I turned off my phone again for 2 days. When I turned it back on, I wasn't prepared for what I saw. Hundreds of comments, dozens of messages. My story had been shared, screenshotted, reposted. People, friends, distant relatives, even strangers were chiming in. This hit me hard. I've been the background sibling. 2, thank you for saying what so many of us can't. This is why emotional neglect is so hard to explain. It's invisible until it's undeniable. But one message stood out. It was from Danielle, my cousin. On my dad's side, we hadn't spoken in years. "Eli, I always thought something was off with how they treated you. I just didn't know how to say it. I'm sorry. I see you, and I'm glad you got out." That was the beginning of other voices coming forward. Not everyone took my side. Some double down. My mom predictably posted another passive, aggressive message. Some people air their wounds instead of healing them. Caleb messaged me once, "Congrats on your little pity parade you always loved playing victim." I didn't respond because I wasn't playing anything anymore. I was done performing, and life quietly began to fill with real things. I joined a writing group in Lisbon, got a part-time job editing English language articles for a travel magazine. I started cooking again, something I hadn't done since college. I made friends, real ones who didn't know anything about Caleb or the cupcake or the house I used to live in, friends who laughed at my jokes. Not at me, who invited me out without expecting anything, who listened when I spoke. A month after the post went viral, I got an email from a publisher who'd seen it and wanted to talk about expanding it into a memoir. I wasn't sure at first, but then I remembered all the messages I'd received, people saying I put into words what they'd felt for years. Maybe my story wasn't just mine. Maybe it was a mirror. For others too, and maybe just maybe my voice once dismissed as too quiet was finally loud enough to matter. I accepted. The deal, a year later, my book hit. Shelves in 10 countries, maybe next year. Choosing yourself when they never did. The dedication page read simply, for the kids with cupcakes and cards who kept waiting for next year, your piece doesn't need their permission. My parents never reached out again. Caleb did once sent me a screenshot of the book cover and said, I hope the attention was worth it. I didn't reply because it was never about attention. It was about truth and truth. When spoken clearly echoes in places, silence never could. So here I am living in a sun-drenched apartment on a quiet Lisbon street. Writing, laughing, loving, not loudly, not perfectly, but fully. Finally, and when April 5th rolls around, each year now I don't wait for a text. I buy myself the biggest, fluffiest cupcake in the bakery with candles and sprinkles, and a handwritten card tucked beside it that says you're worth celebrating this year every year, and for the first time in my life, I believe